When it comes to the captain, what goes around comes around. Here's a look at the brand new McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, the McFarlane Collector's Edition Captain Boomerang. George Digger Harkness is a mercenary and a killer with an aptitude for boomerangs and other projectiles. Antagonistic and often annoying to those around him, he has fought the Flash, and since his incarceration, he has become a member of Task Force X, aka the Suicide Squad. Convicts are a lot like boomerangs. Sure, they leave and you think they're gone, but they're always coming back again. Just before we get a closer look, though, at McFarlane Collector's Edition Captain Boomerang, the tape measure is going to tell us that the figure is going to stand at about 6 3/4 of an inch in height, where the dear captain is 17.5 centimeters tall. Maybe not the best news for Harkness, but there's enough flash we've gotten from McFarlane's team that you can choose for yourself which Scarlet Speedster will be the foil for Captain Boomerang. Sure, yes, there's the original one. This figure, in fact, got released twice. One with the happy face and obviously one with the more grimaced face. There was also the one that we got from the dawn of DC. We just recently, in fact, looked at that figure. Not a bad-looking Flash, but I still feel like maybe a little tad too dark. If you prefer, though, your Flash to be a slightly younger Scarlet Speedster, then obviously there's the Impulse one as well. I did want to bring this figure in, too, and you're probably wondering yourselves, why is he bringing in a Bane when you're comparing it along with Captain Boomerang? Just because they seem to follow similar trends that I'm hoping won't continue. We also have only really one other Flash bad guy as part of the Rogues Gallery. That would be the Reverse Flash. We're still missing, obviously, the standouts like the Weather Wizard, the Mirror Master. I hope certainly that we're going to be getting more of those from the folks over at McFarlane down the road. Don't go too far down the road. No, come back. Let's look at the accessories that come included with Captain Boomerang. First, the figure comes with a display stand that has a little more of the frills, as they printed down below here the DC logo in silver rather than the black. Still, there is always the one neighboring peg off to the far corner that can plug into either one of the Captain's boots. The figure also does have the glorified podium display stand that has the matching DC logo painted in the very same silver color. There's also as well the card. We're just going to remove that right now. The back of the podium, by the way, is always, I don't know why I always feel the need to point these out, but it's a hollow plastic. This is always going to be the show side, the Julia Child public side that you can be showing everybody on your collection shelf. But you'll also probably be showing it as well with the trading card. The trading card does feature, though, the McFarlane Collector's Edition on the side. If you can overlook that. You've actually got a decent image, though, of Captain Boomerang. Sporting, though, at least from the colors of the card, a more green instead of blue. He's throwing one of the boomerangs. Just careful. Just get out of the way. This reminds me of that one Bluey episode where they go down to Australia. I don't know why I'm even referencing a Bluey episode, but they show how to throw a boomerang. And every single time someone thinks they're the experts in the boomerang, they throw it. And then it always comes back and smashes this one neighbor's window. It smashes like 3 times. I don't know why I was thinking about that. On the back, the real name, of course, is George Digger Harkness. Here's, of course, a paragraph read. Not very long. You can easily digest that for yourself. I have already digested it, and I've regurgitated it to you all, the baby bears. You've already read this for me. I guess it would be more a baby bird than baby bears. I've already taken the liberty of chewing this up and digesting it for you. You're welcome. With that grossness aside, let's just put this card back in. And one thing I did also want to mention, though, about the card is that there seems to be like a little ledge of paper on the side. It's not a smooth card. It's smooth on this side, but on this side there's like a little lip. It came, though, out of the packaging like that. I haven't done any damage to the card, but we're just going to carefully, though, slide that back to the podium, put it right over there. The figure also comes included with 3 pairs of interchangeable hands, 4 extra hands that can also then go into the sockets of his forearms. I have changed things out because at the beginning of this review, I did actually have him holding the boomerangs. He can't accommodate that feat just yet because I'm going to have to swap the hands back in place. He does have closed fists for right now. I will be changing that shortly. The figure does also have gripping hands. The gripping hands, one thing I will say about them is that he also does come included with boomerangs. I mean, to have his name be Captain Boomerang and not come included with said boomerangs would be a bit disappointment, wouldn't it? The actual boomerangs themselves, you get 2 of them. They seem to be identical. This one has, though, a little burr of plastic, as you can see. It's not the cleanest cut. You can feel it certainly when you're running your finger across it. This boomerang of the 2 is definitely the cleaner variety. The thing, though, about it, though, is if you're trying to get them into his hands, he doesn't really hold the boomerangs in the best of ways. I mean, they sit pretty loose. If anything, you're probably just going to be resting them inside the hand and just hoping the best that the figure doesn't happen to tip forward, because the boomerangs are going to fall out of his hands. Changing out the hands, though, is just a case of, obviously, we've seen this already before. I'm just going to hold on to the form, easily remove the hand from the provided peg, take the hand then we want to use, and just pop it back on the peg. Super, super easy. And again, we'll just bend the elbow. We'll get the boomerang. We'll just slide that into his hand. But see how loose these hands are. I almost feel as if these hands probably were used from another figure, and they just decided, well, it's a gripping hand. We'll just use these hands instead of tooling brand new ones. The downside, though, to that is that decided choice ended up resulting in these boomerangs sitting extremely loose in Boomerang's hands. The figure also does come included with a gestured hand, too. So if you don't like the idea of displaying him with dual boomerangs, then you could display him with one boomerang, and then the other hand would just be simply a gestured hand. A dynamic hand. So we'll move those all out of the way. I guess we could also really move the podium standee out of the way as well. Why, though? I'm going to slide this guy over. Why now? I'm going to be bringing back in Bane. I think this now is the only second time this has happened where McFarlane decided to give us a fake, I want to say like a faux leather jacket. Bane had it, and Bane, I could justify why this character would have had it. The original Bane was a Build-A-Figure, and it didn't have this jacket, so this was an upsell, some additional frills added to the figure. I like that. I don't know if it's a trend that I want to see continue with every single time we get ourselves a jacket character. Captain Boomerang might be the example of why I think it doesn't work necessarily. It worked okay for Bane because we already had a Bane. This is basically just, again, an upgrade Bane. By having this, though, be a trend that's going to continue, I really hope isn't going to be the case, because the problem is already, you can probably already see for yourself, is that this being a leather material, over time, depending on how careful and what kind of conditions your collection are in, this material most likely will start to split, start to crack, and you'll start to cry. For its credit, though, I think the jacket is tailored well. I mean, you got some decent seam lines to it. It's certainly a lot more paneled on the back. It's a little cleaner on the front. The problem with it, though, is that if you're using a jacket over top of a figure body, first of all, his articulation starts to have to be robbed a little bit. I mean, yes, you can move his arms up, for example, but the material of the jacket is going to always seem to force the arms back down. And also, too, if you're always going to have the arms bent like this, these would be prime places to have splits and cracks start to develop. Now, Captain Boomerang, I think, could have easily just been a figure. Now, obviously, underneath this is going to be just a regular suit. We're going to take this off more in a moment. Underneath this, you could just really display the figure without the jacket. I always think of Captain Boomerang really more with the jacket, and I think, honestly, it would have not been hard for them just to have this as a plastic piece, and have, obviously, armholes here on the sides. We've seen this countless times before, and then just have these sleeved arms be plastic as well. So it would give us at least the look of a jacket on a character without going the full idea of giving him a real leather material. By the way, the jacket does look good on the inside too. Nothing looks unfinished necessarily, but I just feel like it's not a good choice to start going this direction, where every jacket on every character that's going to have a jacket is going to start using a fabric material. I really think, in my own honest opinion, I think that this is not the direction that we want to be going. I mean, I think we've now started the trend of having real fabric capes being introduced to these characters, which was a really great idea, but I think that's kind of where we need to stop. I don't think we need to start to tread into the territory where now characters that have jackets have to now have a fabric material jacket, because I think you could have done the job just as well by having this all be plastic. Yes, it would have had more limitations to the articulation. Yes, I mean, it would have also prevented this figure, like if he had a Boomerang vehicle, for example, it would be very difficult for him to sit inside of that, just because he would have had a plastic jacket. But you would have done away with all the problems that could be down the road, if this material starts to degrade. It is a nice color, though. I will say at least that. From the head sculpt, I know we spent so much time talking about the jacket itself. You know what, let's just move Bane out of the way. I don't want him to compete here along with Captain Boomerang. The head sculpt is really good. Boomerang is one of my favorite of the Flash Rogue gallery. One thing I also forgot was Captain Cold. Captain Cold, I would love to see. I think we did get ourselves a Page Puncher's Captain Cold, but would love to get a classic version of that Captain. A lot of captains. Captain Boomerang, Captain Cold. Was there another Captain part of Flash's baddies? I don't know. You guys let me know down below. I do like the way they get these big, large mutton chop sideburns on the sides. He's got a good head sculpt, too. There is also, as well, a Platinum Edition release of this guy. It's, I think, as far as I know, is already out, where it's basically going to be this jacket, but it's a lighter color. It's not quite the color of his scarf, for example, but it's a bit lighter of a shade of that. So it's not the dark blue. I prefer, really, the dark blue. I might still end up picking up the Platinum Edition, and if that's the case, I'll obviously compare the two. If you did want to, though, you could take the jacket off. The jacket, you're just going to pull off the hands, for example. You may not, though, want to do this too often. And then you're just going to literally slide this off. I feel, though, one thing at least is that they finished the body underneath. So if you decide, like myself, at least for right now, that I don't want to have the jacket on, you can easily take this off. And I'm sure, if anything, you could probably use that jacket with something else. It still looks like Captain Boomerang. Whether you decide to use the scarf can be just removed as well. Or you can just have the scarf and everything off completely. And at least we get ourselves a finished body underneath. He's got himself a strap here that has slightly smaller varieties of those boomerangs. None of these are removable, by the way. They're all soft plastic. The body does look good. Let's go ahead and actually put some hands back in, though. There we go. And we'll do the exact same on the other side. Okay. Yeah, the body does look good. So, I mean, it's not a case where if you decide that you don't like the jacket, or you decide, like myself, that you have the fear that this jacket's going to start to degrade over time. If you did take the jacket off and just store it away somewhere else, you at least have yourself still a finished body underneath. The jacket, the shirt that he has looks really good. I like the coloring too. This blue works really well with the darker blue that he has for his beanie hat. Down below, of course, he's also got himself a belt. Unfortunately, very little in the way of paint. It looks like they've just molded it only just in the black plastic. Large pockets, though, on the sides. And he's got these large military boots there down below as well. Peg holes on the bottoms of his feet. So at least he's a finished-looking Boomerang. Ideally, though, I would have really liked this figure just to have a jacket all the time, with no choice at all on the collector's part to remove the jacket. But again, with the idea of using a faux leather material, I just don't think that was the right way to go. For the figure's articulation, though, going back to his head sculpt, Captain Boomerang's head is going to be on a ball joint, so it allows the head to rotate all the way around. The head can look as far up as that. The head can look down as far as that, as low as that. The head can also rock back and forth, too. The upper torso is going to be on a ball joint. It's not limited at all by the fact he's got the strap in front of it. The figure also has, down below at the bottom of his abdomen, a secondary ball joint. As for the arms, now that the jacket's removed, the arms can freely go where they want, so they can come out at 90 degrees. You take the arms and you can rotate them around. As a side note, though, just before we start moving forward with the rest of the articulation, I do like the actual wrinkles that they've sculpted into the sleeves. Anyways, though, the figure does have a swivel in his bicep. The figure does have a double hinge on the elbow, and the hands, whatever hands you want to use, do rotate all the way around. The legs split out. They're on ratcheted joints. They go about as far as that. You can take the legs and move forward. You can move them back. There's a swivel at the top, a double hinge on the knee. There almost for a second looks like there's a cut in his leg where you can swivel it right there. That's not the case at all. The figure, though, has ankle pivot back and forth. A little loose on this side, unfortunately, an ankle rocker. And Captain Boomerang does have toe articulation as well. I feel the figure sells the best with his sculpt. It's a really good sculpt for Captain Boomerang. Definitely one of the better ones we've gotten in recent memory. The downside, though, and I feel still the detriment of this figure, is the fact that they had to go the route of a real fabric jacket. It started with capes, and I like the idea of a fabric cape. But when we start to go to the approach of jackets, like full material jackets, and again, I'm just going to bring back in Bane for the example of this. Bane, I think, could have been the exception to that rule where he didn't have to necessarily have a plastic jacket. Bane, although I still have the worry that his jacket is going to break down over time, it doesn't seem like it's been the case so far. Now, granted, where you have your conditions of your collection, if you have high humidity, for example, that's always prone to start to have flaking issues when it comes to the full material, whether it be smaller sized 7-inch figures like this or the larger variety 12-inch tall figures. If you have faux material for anything, really, that's always the thing that's the most problematic. Bane I can get behind, though. Bane, we already had a Build-A-Figure Bane, a Bath Bane. This Bane I'm fine with. I don't think, again, we have to kind of start moving in the direction that every jacket character now has to incorporate material. If this was just, say, a regular material, one that wasn't obviously a faux material like this, I don't know how many times I've said faux in this review. If it was just a regular fabric, that would be one thing. But by doing it in the material that they've used, it just means for me that you're cutting down the lifespan of something like this. Whether you decide you want to display it with Captain Boomerang, or you decide, though, to leave it off, I think it's, though, approach that they shouldn't really do moving forward. I must have had one memory lapse. It wasn't an episode of Bluey. It was an episode of Peppa Pig. Peppa and her family go down. I think it's a pen pal that she has in Australia. And while they're visiting down by her house, they're proceeding to show Peppa how to throw a boomerang. And each one of them claiming to throw it better than the other. They just, every single time they throw it, it ends up smashing the next door neighbor's window. Even he, at one point, says, "No, I'll show you how to throw a boomerang." And he smashes his last window. Why was I even referencing Peppa Pig? And why was I even thinking it was a Bluey episode? I got too many kids' cartoons on my brain. Going back, though, to Captain Boomerang, please, can we? Captain Boomerang, as you can see, I've got the figure displayed right now without the jacket. I will say at least, if you're worried like I am worried about having the figure displayed with a jacket that could down the road start to split, at least McFarlane's team designed a fully finished figure underneath all that. And it honestly, even without the jacket, the figure looks good. I prefer Boomerang myself to have a jacket, but if I choose to decide to leave it off altogether, at least I've still got what looks to be a great looking Boomerang underneath. The figure does come included with 2 boomerangs. Unfortunately, the boomerangs don't hold the best inside his gripping hands. It almost seems as if those hands were used from another figure, which probably makes sense. I can't imagine that they would have tooled brand new hands specifically for Captain Boomerang to grip his boomerangs. Figure's face looks good. The figure's paint job is pretty good as well. This guy is also getting released as a platinum edition, which takes the colors and I think it lightens everything. His jacket more so is the standout. Instead of the darker blue, he has kind of more of a pastel blue. I don't know if I'm going to plan to pick that one up. If I do, obviously a review of that will be following. Have you guys had the chance to pick up the McFarlane Collector's Edition Captain Boomerang? If you haven't, or if you have, do you have the figure displayed with the jacket? If you haven't, are you also worried that they're going the direction of now using jackets, real jackets, on characters? I think still with Captain Boomerang, while the appeal is definitely there to peel off the layers and actually have 2 different ways of displaying the figure, I still though think in the end, right from the beginning, this figure could have easily just been pulled off with a plastic jacket, never with any intended plan of being removed. But where do you guys feel? Like, where's your standing point when it comes to jackets like this? Do you feel like McFarlane should start to incorporate more fabric outfits on these characters? Or you, like myself, just are happy with the idea of getting plastic jackets that are non-removable? Let me know down below. If you guys also did enjoy this video, I want to throw it a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and want to stick around for more, we are going to be also looking at some more DC Multiverse stuff. Hey, that sounds good. So don't be smashing anybody's windows with boomerangs, whatever you do. Peppa Pig. It wasn't Bluey. It was Peppa Pig. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.